Is there such thing as drafting chalk for a defensive tackle that won a national championship just 2 years ago being undervalued? I'm Johnny Venerable. He's Bo Brack. It's PHNX Cardinals. We're talking Michigan standout Kenneth Grant, the other defensive tackle out of Michigan, post Jim Harbaugh's era. I'm telling you right now, he's been one of my favorite prospects since the beginning. Does he have a relatively low ceiling compared to some of these other guys? Sure. Maybe he's not Mason Graham, but the on-field product, Bo, his position to go from 3 to 5 to 1 technique on that defensive line for a team that, when they wanted to this past college football season, could dominate the likes of Ohio State. So much to like here.
Yeah, there's a lot to like. And when you start to check off boxes, especially in the interior of the defensive line, and Dalvin Tomlinson has the ability to play that nose. I think Kenneth Grant would come in and have the immediate ability to play that nose, maybe a little bit more of a natural fit for Grant at his big size, 6'3", 331 pounds as he measured at the combine. Big boy, the true definition of beef at the NFL level. And I think that's why what separates him from Walter Nolan, who's a little bit smaller, a little bit more of a motor player. I think Grant would be somebody that, could he play like the Jordan Davis role that he played for in Philly under Jonathan Gannon for Nick Grallis. DT5 from our guy, Fran Duffy, who's going to give you the full breakdown. But coming from, I know he wasn't a starter in the Natty team for Michigan, but he was a guy that was in that locker room, was a part of that run. You come in here, and I think he had his immediate role here on the defensive front for the Cardinals. Very safe pick. I agree with you. And I think you could stomach the less of the upside just for somebody that's a plug-and-play type player.
Here's Fran Duffy on the hometown kid from Gary, Indiana.
All right, time to talk about Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant. And to me, if you're talking about what is a player's superpower, where does he most excel? With Kenneth Grant, it's the tools. I mean, look, a legendary sports writer, Bruce Feldman, who writes for The Athletic, he does his annual Freaks List column. That's the freakiest athletes in college football. Kenneth Grant made that list before he even played a down for the Michigan Wolverines. As a true freshman, he comes on campus, and the coaches were already marveling at the physical abilities of this player at 6'6", north of 330, really light feet, the change of direction, the balance. He's never on the ground. All really stand out. Some of the weight room numbers, really, really impressive. I'm going to be honest, watching him on film, the get-off, that didn't always wow me. It's not like the wow level of athleticism when you're watching him on tape. That said, he's a really graceful kid. And again, he's just never on the ground, which is a very important athletic trait for defensive tackles. And when you're looking at Kenneth Grant, he's got scheme versatility at that size with that light feet. You could see him be a nose tackle, your traditional kind of run stuffer inside. He's got some 3-tech quickness to him. So I think overall, you like that ability to be able to kind of shift between different roles and responsibilities for defensive front. He's been solid from a production standpoint on a per snap basis, not consistently dominant, but he's able to check the box and kind of get home in a lot of different ways. It helps playing next to a guy like Mason Graham for sure. But I think when you've got Kenneth Grant, the tools are outstanding. And again, a guy at that size, he's just so tough to move off his spot in the run game. Very stout at the point of attack and take on double teams and keep linebackers clean, make jobs easier for everybody else along the front. So you're going to get a lot of that superfluous value there with Kenneth Grant. As far as a negative standpoint, despite those physical tools, despite the fact that the coaches were fluffing him up as this great athlete before he ever played a down for Michigan, he was a backup for his first 2 years, did not become a starter until this past year. It makes you wonder, all right, well, how come he didn't crack the starting lineup until that point? Outside of that, though, there's not a lot of holes in this profile. I mentioned he's got solid production, not dominant. Is he going to be that guy that is going to take over games consistently? Depending on how you answer that question, that's going to determine what the value is of this player. If you think that he's just going to be kind of that key cog that kind of keeps everybody else clean and helps everybody else along the front, it's tough to spend a middle of the first round type of selection on a player like that. But if you think that he's going to turn into that dominant, disruptive force against the pass, now you're talking in terms of the top 20 for a guy with those physical gifts. So I think there is a wide range of outcomes. There's a wide range of opinions out there to be sure with this player. Some people you talk to are really, really high. Some people not as much. I think that I'm kind of somewhere in between on this player. The gifts are undeniable. It's just a matter of what the ultimate outcome is and how you project him moving forward. I love the scheme versatility. I love the tools. It's about just making sure you get the best possible version of that skill set, of that player on an every down basis. That will determine if this pick is worth it 4 or 5 years from now.
Great stuff from Fran. 6'4", 331 in that top 90th percentile for weight. His pro comp, by the way, is Dalvin Tomlinson. And again, I think he might have a little bit higher of a ceiling. Dalvin Tomlinson went just a couple ticks later in the draft. I think he was a fringe first, early second round pick for the New York Giants once upon a time, but the Giants haven't been able to replace him. And so I don't think you can discredit having a player of this caliber under contract for hopefully the next 5 to 10 years. For the Arizona Cardinals right now, I get it. You signed 2 defensive tackles in free agency. You've got Darius Robinson. But as you pointed out, Calais Campbell's year to year. Dalvin Tomlinson signed a 2 to 3 year contract. Kenneth Grant represents the future. But the future can be now in certain pass rush sets. We saw what he did to Washington's defensive line in the national championship just a couple of years ago. This is somebody with explosiveness. We look at 3.5 sacks this year. You might scoff at that. Well, it's more than Shamar Stewart that we've highlighted, who plays edge rusher. So I think his ceiling could be 5 or 6 sacks in the right scenario under defensive coordinator Nick Rallis.
Well, even if it's not that, and he helps as far as being a run stuffer, something that they've lacked, and just his freakish athleticism at his size, you take that immediately, even though it's not going to translate to the box score. And that's what you're going to get with Kenneth Grant, and you much rather take that from an interior guy than somebody off the edge where you're expecting big kind of sack results with a Shamar Stewart. This is just something that you like to see where, we didn't get to see him compete at the combine due to the hamstring strain, but this is a guy that I think it's about one of the safest plays you can make in the first round of the NFL draft. But what do you think? Is it too safe? Do you want to see a little bit more sizzle than Kenneth Grant for the Cards round 1? Drop a comment, leave a like, subscribe to PHNX Sports, and make sure to check out our draft guide. Go PHNX.com.